Earlier, we have an exclusive coming in from the corridors of Parliament. Minority Leader Haruna Iddrisu is with us in studio. And Mr. Iddrisu, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning and thank you and to your esteemed listeners. I am essentially and primarily concerned about President Nana Addo Dankwa and his Minister of Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta, throwing ethical values to the dogs.
Before we go into the details
of this country, and we are concerned because a common denominator of corruption is conflict of interest, and the Constitution in Article 284 is expressed that public officers, I'm not quoting the exact words, shall eschew conflict of interest positions in their dealings.
Great. Let's take a step back before we go into the details of these allegations that you raise. First of all, government is seeking to make some expenditure. They have come to Parliament and they've come to seek approval for some bonds they want to raise.
Absolutely, yes. Under the 2020 Financial and Government Economic Policy, provision was made to raise $3 billion Euro bond to finance what is described as government priority projects. Even if you look at the beneficiary list, you will be worried that sometimes as a country we should not be borrowing for purpose of consumption, particularly against the NPP-owned campaign pledge and promise that they would borrow purposefully and they will borrow to grow the economy. Some of the list items, in our view, leaves might to be desired. But our primary concern is that in the prospectus that have been advertised for the raising of the 3 billion euro bond, the book runners are listed as Fidelity Bank, Stanchart Bank, and Data Bank Brokerage. That is unethical and that is unacceptable within the remit of the 1992 Constitution, in particular Article 284. And as I have rightly observed, a common denominator of corruption globally is conflict of interest. And a conflict of interest exists when an individual or corporation has the opportunity, real or perceived, to exploit their position for personal or corporate benefit. What would be the benefit to Data Bank Brokerage, looking at its ownership and relationship with the finance minister? We think that some of these transactions must be above board.
The finance minister has stepped aside from his role at Data Bank.
Step aside as owner?
As director.
Role, just that, and that is enough to satisfy you. You see, it can be perceived, real or imagined. Couldn't he just do without Data Bank? Are there no financial institutions in Ghana, local and international, that could play that role? I do not think that he should be creating those impressions, and we find that very unacceptable as a minority, and we are concerned. Additionally, even as they are raising the 3 billion, I think that I'm minded to join respected economists in Ghana to do a thorough and a critical review of the fiscal table which was advertised on Monday prior to the raising of the 3 billion euro bond. In that fiscal table, they are suppressing the deficit in the name of amortization. And amortization in the sense that the $1.5 billion that banks have supported through a syndicate for the Ghana Education Trust Fund, GET Fund, has not been captured as part of the computation of the public debt and deficit. The Sino-Hydro loan facility of over $550 million is also not captured as part of the public debt. And you recall just recently when the president was in Palogu in the Upper East region to launch the irrigation and power generation facility. The president's exact words were that government will wholly finance that initiative of building 60 megawatts of electricity at $360 million, that defies best practice. I mean, you don't produce 1 megawatts of electricity more than 1.5 million US dollars. For $360 million to produce 60 megawatts of electricity needs our critical examination as a country, as padded figures. And therefore, why did he deceive the Ghanaian public that this should be wholly government funded when he knew in all sincerity that he'll be coming to Parliament?
Mr. Iddrisu, a question on what you raised earlier. You remember when $250 million of the $1 billion Eurobond was in 2016 advanced to UBA, and it was alleged that it was bought back by government. That business was done through UBA. At that time, there were board members of UBA who were known to be connected to the then government.
If those board members were finance ministers, say so.
No, I didn't say they're finance ministers. I said that they are connected to government.
This is unethical. Nowhere in the world must this be accepted.
Does it mean DataBank can't do business with government, with the finance ministry?
He should spare on the side of caution. He should err on the side of caution and not make it. Are we not right in assuming that in determining fees that will be paid to the book runners per the prospectus, he would have been minded by the personal benefit or corporate benefit?
Are you aware if he recused himself from the deliberations that went into the selection of DataBank? That's the finance minister personally.
Whatever it is, I have a duty to the Ghanaian people that unethical conduct is unacceptable if we want to deepen good governance in our country. And therefore, we all must avoid those conduct that give room for people to speculate, real or imagine or perceive that you are behaving in a manner that only benefits you as an individual and a person.
But I am reliably informed that this is not the first time they've been involved in a transaction like this.
This is not the first time we are also raising it as unethical conduct.
Haruna Iddrisu, Minority Leader, thank you very much for joining us this morning. You are live on the Super Morning Show. Enjoy 99.7 FM. And it's 16 minutes till we hit the top of the hour. Mr. Iddrisu, it just made us know that his side of Parliament is raising issues about the inclusion of DataBank brokerage in as book runners for the Eurobond, the $3 billion Eurobond that the Finance Ministry seeks to raise. He says that DataBank's relationship with the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, raises issues of ethics, which his side of the House must really draw the attention of the nation to. It's live on the Super Morning Show, and the Sanitation and Water Resources Minister, Cecilia Abena-Dapaah, will be joining us after this, so we discuss the president's vision of making Accra the cleanest city in Africa. How far along do you think we have come in achieving this, and what question do you have for Madam Cecilia Abena-Dapaah? Stay with us. We'll be right back.